Welcome to the Dynasty Dummies podcast. I am a host again this week, Zach Reed, and I have with me another guest, another edge finder, another in the series, and I have the Titan of trades with me this week. The water closet of wheeling and dealing, the commode of compromises, Dynasty Outhouse, Russ Fisher. Trade Addicts Pod, doer of everything at DLF, and personal friend, which is fantastic. I'm excited to have you on.
I'm excited that I get to actually physically attack you in less than 8 days.
Yeah, it's T minus like 7 days and 6.5 hours that I'm going to be leaving to head to your house and pick you up for the Fantasy Football Expo, the Midwest Fantasy Football Expo at Canton at the Hall of Fame next weekend. And yeah, absolutely thrilled about that. It'll be fun to see everybody, meet people in person. As you're want to say, all of these strange men that I met on the internet, I finally get to meet in person, and it's so exciting.
So exciting.
But before we get to the expo, before we get to picking your brain, because I am if you didn't listen last week, I am doing a series where I'm bringing on friends of mine who I think are absolutely brilliant and have a facet of their fantasy football game that they attack better than anybody else and so much differently than I do that I think it's worth taking the time to bring on and just peel back the curtain a little bit and let other people in to some of your brilliance, even if you don't think it's brilliance, it is. But before I get there, before I get picking your brain about trades, I want to talk just real quick about something that came up. And in the pre-show, we were talking a little bit about the Scott Fish Bowl and a little bit about music. And I started talking to you about one of my favorite artists, James Mcmurtry, who unfortunately didn't make the Scott Fish Bowl divisions list because I may be the only person in the Scott Fish Bowl who has heard of him.
Who's heard of it?
Yeah. Although Pete Davidson, let's give him some credit. I think Pete may. I mean, he may. But James Mcmurtry is my guy, and he has a line in one of his songs where he says, "You wish so hard, you're scaring me." And I was scrolling through Twitter today, and I had that line come up in my head because I was looking at a poll that pitted David Montgomery against J.K. Dobbins, and it said who's going to score the most points in PPR this year, J.K. Dobbins or David Montgomery. And overwhelmingly, the majority was J.K. Dobbins. And I get it. Like, I love J.K. Dobbins. I loved him coming out. I love him now. It's very similar to the way I feel about Josh Jacobs, very similar to the way I feel about DeAndre Swift. Like, there are all these players that coming out have this amazingly well-rounded skill set. They've got a perfect kind of amalgamation for PPR. They have the ability to carry. They have the ability to catch the ball. There were only 50 targets to running backs last year in Baltimore. 50. So how are you going to get to a point where J.K. Dobbins does what he needs to do? And we were talking, you had a pick, Russ, in an eliminator league with me, and you took Amir Abdullah.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay, let me defend this. It is what, 18 people, and we are in like round 20 something.
Oh yeah, this is like the 350th pick off the board. But Amir Abdullah, that name kicked back up some of these memories where people were arguing for Amir Abdullah. He's going to come in and he's going to take over, and he had the 50-yard run in Detroit.
That preseason, man.
Yeah. But you hope so hard. You're scaring me. And it's, I mean, we do this all the time where, and you mentioned, and I don't remember who it was, but you said it was a Devi Darling, and
Kylan Hill.
it's Kylan Hill, and it's so hard to give up on these players because we get so attached, and we get so attached so early before they've developed, before they've landed in a spot in the NFL, before they've shown us what they are in terms of NFL players, and it's really hard to get away from that. It's really hard to dissociate. But I think that is a really valuable skill in fantasy football. It's and look, I'm guilty of it too. Like I had John Kelly on rosters for way too long.
We all did, man. We all did.
Corey Davis, I still
I
have
still
Corey.
do.
Yeah. There was another Corey that Coleman, Corey Coleman.
Oh,
He went to the Giants, and I was like, there was an Odell Beckham comp at one point to Corey Coleman.
there
And
was.
the Odell Beckham comp was like Corey Coleman dyed his hair blonde
He had
and
frosted
like
tips,
shoes.
and that was it, yeah.
But like we fall into this trap of hoping and wanting players to be things that they're not. And even good players, we get attached to. So like I was kind of on the periphery of a conversation last week about Nick Chubb, and someone hot take came out and said Nick Chubb is probably not ever going to get up into the top 5 or 6 players in terms of PPR scoring, and a whole bunch of people push back on that, and I'm like, that's not that really big a hot. Like he would have to have
Derrick Henry.
Yeah,
but he's never going to get those touches.
Even Derrick Henry, and I've harped on this before, but Derrick Henry had the 3rd best season in NFL history,
like RB5-ish,
as a running back, and he finished as the PPR RB3.
Yeah,
and he was 80 points behind Alvin Kamara. 80.
Yep, absolutely, and bring it back to JK right now. Like that's.
Yeah. And it's not I think people get offended when you start talking, in terms of dynasty or in terms of PPR, in terms of fantasy, because the NFL and fantasy football, although fantasy football mirrors the NFL and uses the NFL stats, it's not the same thing.
Not the same thing.
And you can be a really great NFL player. For my money, outside of Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb is probably the 2nd best runner of the football in the NFL. And to me, it's between him and Jonathan Taylor.
I like Nick Chubb more even than
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry's just not fair. That's what it comes down to. Okay, Derrick Henry is the best, but Nick Chubb is the best human being at running the ball.
Yeah.
But yes, I completely agree with what you're saying. You're absolutely right. It's the separation of this player's skill as a football player and what the team is going to let him do with it. You're absolutely right. I mean, to bring it back to your original point, J.K. Dobbins was my favorite running back coming in. I knew he wasn't the best. I knew Jonathan Taylor, I had him ranked in heavy air quotes above him because I don't actually rank anything. But Dobbins was my best. And the second he landed in Baltimore, I'm like, yes, running back behind a running quarterback. This is going to be, oh crap, they don't pass to the running back at all. This is not going to go well. And right away, I had no Dobbins shares.
Yeah.
And you ask the question, how is he going to get up into those running back ranks? He's going to need every touchdown he scored last year and every touchdown Mark Ingram scored last year.
Yeah.
He's going to have to Aaron Jones the hell out of this season.
Yeah, and people point to the efficiency, and they do. This is Peter Howard's new thing with split stats, and he's on a crusade to end split stats, which is
I can never understand that Kentucky accent anyway.
It's poor timing because I think DLF is actually unveiling a split calculator or whatever, like an app. At the same time, Peter is splits are fool's gold, but if you look at J.K. Dobbins and you look at the small sample size and you look at the efficiency, like pie in the sky, but efficiency doesn't work like that. It's and I'm a Red Sox fan from way back. It's Alex Cora, when he was playing for the Red Sox, he was a backup second baseman.
I don't understand any of these words you're saying right now.
Oh, shit.
No, joking about not knowing baseball.
Oh, okay. I thought we
No,
lost.
no. I would have made a robot joke or something if you were cutting out again. I'm just, you're speaking gibberish.
So he was a backup second baseman, and they used him to pinch hit in all of these situations that were completely ideal for Alex Cora. And he was hitting like 310, which is fantastic. And everybody in Red Sox Nation said, oh, we got to play him more. And so finally, whoever was playing second got hurt, and Alex Cora came in and hit 240 like he always does, because efficiency in situations where everything is ideal is different than efficiency in actual everyday situations.
Lamar Miller.
Yeah, and yes, exactly. And it's not to say that J.K. Dobbins is bad, because he's not. He's a great running back.
Mm-hmm.
But you couple adding in touches where teams know that he's running the ball, instead of being like 3rd and 8 and a run pass option, and Lamar Jackson happens to hand it off. And you take away the fact that Lamar Jackson, his first instinct when he's in trouble is not to dump the ball to the running back. It is to take off. I mean, it's the polar opposite of Tom Brady, where the value of James White for so many years was when Tom Brady got in trouble.
I don't want to get hit.
Yeah. Here, James White, good. And James White would get 130 targets, and that's great. But there were literally 50 targets in the entire running back room for the Ravens last year. And so I love Dobbins. I love Jonathan Taylor. I love Derrick Henry. I mean, you can go back to 2016 and listen to Kyle and I gush about Derrick Henry, coming in and like just salivating. But pass catching matters, and hoping that somebody is a pass catcher doesn't make them a pass catcher. And so sometimes in fantasy, it's better to be grounded in reality.
Well, I mean, I'll even one up what you just said. Being a pass catcher doesn't matter if they're not throwing the ball to you, a la Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, exactly.
Sony Michel, to bring it home to you. Like, I mean,
why you gotta?
Well, you brought up Corey Coleman and it hurt my feelings. Like, it's still like, I loved Josh Jacobs, and then the second he like, yeah, let's go. Oh, wait, what? Why? Huh? What? No, this year they're gonna pass to him. Wait, what? Jalen Richard, what? And now Kenyon Drake. Oh yeah, we're gonna split him wide. And what?
Yeah,
you have this.
Yeah.
Take lock is an ugly thing.
And it's a combination. It's a combination of that and the Sigmund Bloom assumption of rational coaching.
Yes, I have heavily adopted that phrase. That's the word.
Yeah, and like, as much as we would like all NFL coaches to see the best way to utilize and deploy their players, as much as we'd like people to be Sean McVay, there's Jason Garrett as an offensive coordinator. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. And honestly, in Baltimore, the best way to deploy your best player is to let Lamar Jackson run.
Be Lamar Jackson. Yeah.
So I don't want to rain on parades. I don't want to, like, that wasn't my intent. I love all these players. They can be league winners. That was another very ferocious debate, because it was the phrasing of that tweet about Nick Chubb was, he's not a league winner. Well, he is.
If Hunt goes out, I mean, like, but can you give that moniker to someone you're drafting in the second round anyway?
Well, and that's it. Like, if
you're paying for him to be a league winner.
If he performs like he should, you're going to win your league if you draft players behind him to kind of fill out your roster. But in and of himself, he is not that league winner. It's not like James Robinson last year, where you got him undrafted and he was a top 6. Nick Chubb, you're paying to be a top 6, and there's not a lot of leeway there. If he's not a top 6, then
You overpaid.
that hurts.
Mhm.
And it's not that Nick Chubb is a bad player, because he's great. He's
Yes,
the best
big
runner in the
fan.
NFL. He's fantastic. But so anyway, that was just what came up in my mind when you and I we were huddled together listening to James Mcmurtry. It was very romantic. It was I almost dimmed the lights here in the studio / kitchen, and we had a moment. But that came up. You wish so hard, you're scaring me about a lot of these players, and sometimes just step back. Reality.
It's not even reality, it's game reality, because reality is the NFL, and the NFL is not fantasy football.
Yeah.
Which is why anytime you defend a rule in fantasy football saying, well, that's what the NFL does, we don't play NFL football. It's not the same. So much more has to go into it, unless you start giving more points for rush yardage as opposed to receiving yardage for a running back, in which case, yes, players like Derrick Henry and man, that's actually an interesting idea. No, I'm not Scott Fish. I'm not putting work into weird scoring things, but maybe I'll tell him about that.
You just piqued Bosch's interest.
Oh my God. No, I'm not joining another Bosch league. But I mean, that's the problem with PPR and with running backs. It's just something you gotta kind of have to live with, and you have to play by the rules of the leagues you're in. And if you're playing in a PPR league, sorry, that hurts these pure runners' value in fantasy football. They're still fantastic for their team. So is Henry Ruggs. And start him in fantasy.
Yeah. Yep. 2.87 points. That's what a target is worth over a rush, over a carry. Like that's just how it is. Like I didn't make the rules. I didn't even do the math. So.
But you sounded real smart when you said
it. Well, anytime you can stand on the shoulders of giants, and that's what I'm gonna do tonight.
No, I don't know. From what I saw at training camp, you do not want to be standing anywhere near the giants.
Fight! I got it in Sharpie on my shirt tonight. But that's what I want to do though with you here tonight. The Edge Finder series is stand on the shoulders of giants, is pick your brain, because I don't think I have ever met anybody who approaches trading like you do, but also can talk about it and make it accessible to people like me who are terrible at trading. And so
you say that, but somehow walked away with my first round pick that turned into the 101 in the Super Flex League. So I don't know what you're saying. So clearly we should be talking to you about the edge in trading.
No, that was a fluke Derek Carr. Like I don't know quite what happened.
I'm afraid to even look back at what the trade was. I don't even want to know what I did. I don't know why I thought that team wouldn't be terrible.
It was probably just like a late night, and you felt bad for me. Like maybe I tweeted something out, and you were just yeah, I got to make Zach feel better, and
that makes thinking that's why I did it makes me feel better. So I like that. I'm going to start thinking that now.
But I'm curious how you approach trades. Like initially, what do you look for on your roster? What are you looking for on other people's roster? Like, how do you approach trades?
It's funny, like you said, I approach trades different than anyone else. I don't know how I approach trades. I was going to ask you, how do you think I approach them? Because I'd honestly, click buttons. That's how I approach things.
I mean, so yeah, you throw out a lot of trades, but I've never met anybody, and I've never traded with anybody who is not attached necessarily to specific player. Like I'll see you go trade for a guy, and then I'll see you ship him, and just like bing, 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 and I'm like, when I attack trades, which is not very often.
I try and get you trading more, and
well,
I mean, you just won that league, right? Like, so it's kind of tough to.
That's a sore subject. I finished second. That was one of the 3 leagues I finished second because of Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, final, like the end of the Patriots game, and it had to be a Patriots game because, of course. So I'm watching the Patriots get beat 30 to like not even crossing the 50-yard line. And the third quarter ends, and I'm like, well, maybe they're going to take Diggs and Allen out.
I wish
No,
they did. I
they-
wish they did that right away because I lost the Trade Addicts 2 championship by 0.6 points when they pulled Josh Allen out.
yeah, yeah. And that was like, I think my three were like 4.6 points. I mean, it's not 0.43, but 4.6 points and like 9. But that touchdown
That
just
still hurts.
sealed it. Yeah. I mean, that was it. I went from uh not having to worry about where my vacation fund was coming from to
Mhm.
being I hope I
Honey,
can
we're poor.
yeah, I hope I can make my mortgage payment in one play. But like that's the thing. Like to me, when I go look at a trade, I target players.
Mhm.
So right now I am, and I just watched you do it, and I was very jealous. But I'm targeting Jerry Jeudy right now because I think he is that next player to take the step that Calvin Ridley and Chris Godwin and Juju Smith-Schuster and all of those players who are a 2 when they're playing the one role, but they're a 1 when they're in the second role and can attack zone coverage and play out of the slot. So he's a player I'm attacking. I think I'm still attacking Juju Smith-Schuster because I think
You
he's
absolutely should be.
perennially undervalued.
Even
And
worse now, yeah.
there are a few players, even Brian Edwards, who there's been some debate on Twitter about
Dude,
whether or not
Brian Edwards is Terrell Owens, Randy Moss, and now Devontae Adams rolled into one. You
he's
don't have
not
enough firsts in the league to go get Brian Edwards right now.
he's
I
not that
almost said Brian Adams, by the way. That really almost came out of my mouth. That would have been fantastic.
cuts like a knife, man.
Summer of never mind.
Nice. But like that's how I approach it. Like I'm attacking specific players, and so it really limits my trade targets and my trade partners
Mhm.
because it's whoever in the league has those players, and I have to hope that they fit what I've got. So I went and looked at because you traded with Rocky Petrella, who
Mhm.
is Trade Addicts. Like he's your co-host, and he's fantastic. I really love listening to the two of you together, and I watched that trade happen, and I was so jealous because I looked at his team and I looked at my team in that league, and I said, I don't even want the players on my team. Why? Like nothing meshes with what Rocky needs. And then all of a sudden, like 3 hours later, bing, the trade went through, and I was like, oh.
It's really funny because that's what that trade was. He literally sent it to me, and I'm like, fine, because I've been trying to give him Daniel Jones for Jerry Jeudy for so long, and he wouldn't do it. So like, I wore down. I'm like, you know what? It's not going to happen. Fine, I'll give you Tua. And honestly, I don't feel great about giving up Tua, but honestly, I wanted Jeudy, so I did it.
Yeah. And so are you and I like on the same page? Are you identifying players? Or are you just like identifying
Uh,
needs on your team? Or like, how do you
well, it
go?
depends. Oh, there's so much that goes into it.
See, this
Um,
is what I want.
Well, I mean, now I hate this time of year because you have to start worrying about your starting lineup. Like now you're getting to the point where at least in your less active leagues, you need to start worrying about your starting lineup. I love June and July because football's getting real. It's almost Scott Fishbowl time, but value is fake. I
Right.
love it. It's all perception. It's all Twitter hype. There's no camp. There's nothing. Now you have to start worrying a little bit about it. What do I look at when I go to trade? I try not to look at my starting lineup. I'm still guilty of it. I'm a very like if you ever listen to Trade Addicts, I always say do as I say, not as I do, because I always fall into a lot of everything you're not supposed to do. I trade because I'm bored. I drunk trade. I look at my starting lineup in July because again, I got bored, and how else am I going to figure out what I want to trade for? It's I trade just because I'm bored. That's really what it comes down to. And like, here's the thing: the way this all started, like, I used to play redraft. Well, I do still play redraft, but like that's all I knew. And to me, I had a few friends that we were in multiple leagues together and we liked to trade. Like it got to the point where we traded Jericho Cotchery back and forth so many times that like we would just name our team Jericho Cotchery. Jericho Cotchery traded Jericho Cotchery to Jericho Cotchery. Like it was ridiculous. Like, it was just so much fun. But then it came down to like week 8, week 9. Most teams don't have a reason to trade, and it's redraft. There's no long-term reason for it. And then we started keeper leagues. We turned that into a keeper league. And it's like, okay, cool. At some point, you can trade a younger guy for an older guy to score points, but still not really going to happen. And that's when I came into that's why I found Dynasty. That like I came into Dynasty for trading because that was always the most fun to me. I'm terrible at setting lineups. I always forget about the waiver wire. So like trading was always the most fun to me, and that's why I came into this, and that's why it's still the first thing I think to do. And like whenever I wake up in the morning, I open Twitter, I open GroupMe, I open a fantasy football league, I open Gmail, check my GroupMe to see if I have any messages, check my Twitter to get rid of my notifications and my DMs. Trade Addicts 1, Trade Addicts 2, Trade Addicts 3. Like I start going through and see if there's anything I feel like doing that day. I wish I had a better memory so I could give credit where credit is due, but I never do. I think the name Brian Malone is sticking out to me. He was a DLF guy, kind of maybe still is a DLF guy, but he was the first person I saw that was a pure volume trader, where he said, gain 1%, gain 1%, gain 1%. Sooner or later, you gained 100%. And I was like, I feel that. Yes, that's pretty much what I want to do, what I try to do. And that's honestly what it still is. Like you said before, you were looking at Rocky's team trying to find a way to get Jerry Jeudy, but nothing you had on your team fits on his. What does he need? Who has something that he needs? Let me go see if I can go to that guy to go to this guy. And if you're feeling really ballsy and have a lot of time on your hands, you put a 3-way trade together, which is so much goddamn fun. Like, the puzzle of a 3-way trade is just so much fun. Like I sit there like crisscrosses with lines going, like I feel like it's like a conspiracy, like that gif of Charlie Day. Like that's what putting a 3-way trade together is like. And that's honestly, I find it so fun, and that's what it really is. So I don't care about winning a trade. I don't care about if it's smart for my team a lot of the times, because as long as I feel like I'm about to use the word winning when I don't mean it the way everyone else thinks. As long as I get what I want out of it, let's use that phrase, because it's not always winning in the calculator. It's not always even winning at value. Like, man, listen to Trade Addicts this week. I went nuts today, and we'll talk about it on my show as opposed to yours, because that's not what we're here for. I definitely I blew up my team in Trade Addicts 5, and I definitely did not get the value I wanted on all the trades, but I got where I wanted to be. And that's what's the important thing is like when people are trading, it's tough for them to see the big picture. They're tunnel visioned into the value of this trade alone. It's not this trade alone. It's where it can domino to. It's what it does to the overall value of your team. And like, I think that's why a lot of people that come to redraft are very slow to get into trading, because they're not used to seeing that picture. And some people, it's just not how their brain works. It's very funny. Like my wife and I, in the real world, I am the tunnel vision person. I take care of what's in front of us. My wife takes care of 5 years from now. Like that's the way we work. But when it comes to like dynasty leagues, I'm fine not winning for 3 years if it means I could win for 3 after that. And also, rebuilding is just so much fun. And like that's the point of this game. That's why I play in far too many leagues. But the thing is, I don't play. The most expensive league I play in is $50. Like I do not play any big money. I choose volume over quantity of money. Like I can't think of a way to finish that. Like I'm a volume player as opposed to a big money player. Like it's. I don't want the pressure of all of it coming down to one league. Like I would be afraid to trade in a league that big. Like that's why Trade Addicts leagues are $42. And the only reason it's $42 is, well, there's 2 reasons, because it's the ultimate answer to life, the universe, and everything. And because money goes to charity, and I still wanted there to be a decent amount of money for the pot. Like Trade Addicts 1 was only $36 because I wish I met Scott Fish first before I created Trade Addicts 1, and they would have been 42 and would have been donating right away. I finally got them to agree to it this year, but we kept it at 36. But sorry, I was just talking way too long. I need a drink of water. That's what it comes down to. I find trading fun, so I keep doing it, and I don't see it as a talent, but I guess maybe it is that you get. You know me, I'll never admit to being good at anything. When you get that 1%, you get that 1%, you get that 1%, you lose 2% because you're going to gain 3% with what you just did. You know, I mean, I'm saying the same thing over and over again at this point, so you need to start talking sooner or later. But like, that's really what it comes down to. It's really just keep the wheels spinning, because sooner or later, you're going to build the team I made in Trade Addict 6, which is just, I can't trade anything on that team. Like, first of all, I do absolutely get stuck on my players. Don't get me wrong. I traded away a T. Higgins share for the first time ever. I had to, because I just like, I stare at these teams and I'm like, I have nothing to move. I love you, buddy. I swear I love you, but this is going to happen. Like, I can't trade Calvin Ridley away. I value him too high. I love Allen Robinson. It's, you know, like, it's so tough to move some of these guys, but sooner or later you just sort of do it because you need to keep your team moving, and you don't want to. Everyone wants to think they're Bill Belichick. You get out a year early better than a year late. After Larry Fitzgerald, I stopped. I gave up on Larry Fitzgerald literally like 6 years ago. I mean, like, I don't want to, like, you get like Julio Jones, like, no one wants to get stuck with a 30-year-old. And you kind of factor that in. That gets baked into price. And that's why you keep churning. You win your championship. You get rid of a couple of your older guys sooner or later. You can always make your team better. Okay, I'm going to keep talking because there is a story that works with what I'm saying. I joined a league from a friend, and this dude won the league 3 years in a row, literally never trading. He put together a great team. He had a great startup and 2 very good rookie drafts. He never had to do anything. He just kept winning. I joined that league, and 2 years later, he's like, shit. All right, who wants to trade? You know, because I took 2 years and I built a monster, and I won 2 years in a row and left because I got bored. But like, you get stale. Like, there's all of a sudden, like, you're not going to always get good draft picks. You're not, that came out wrong. You're not always going to draft the right people. That's a better way of putting it. Like, this dude got lucky a couple of years in a row getting a good, like, getting Michael Thomas at like the 108 or like wherever. You know, that doesn't always happen. You don't always get Justin Jefferson at like the 111. Sometimes you
get AJ Brown instead. Oh, sorry.
No, you get DK Metcalf. Come on. AJ Brown went at the 201. You get Marquise Brown. I mean, like, it's going to happen sooner or later. Like, you can't build. I won't say can't, because there's going to be that one dude like, I totally build my team doing this way. It is very, 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 very hard to build your team through draft and the wire alone, because there are other avenues. Other teams are making their team better, and you're not taking advantage of that. And see, please, goddamn, talk now.
No, that's where I struggle, because my greatest asset as a fantasy player is rookie evaluation. Like, and look, I'm
Harris
still
Campbell's going to be a thing this year.
He will. I heard you talk about that with Jeff, and I'm with you. Very talented, but again, some of these players that I've been on, you've been able to get later in drafts, and those are the guys who win leagues. I mean, so I drafted last year Justin Jefferson in my home league, in a league that I had won back to back. So I had you know, the last pick in the first round, and ended up with Justin Jefferson, because isn't that what you do? And so that is how I build, but it's also how I stagnate. So that team that I'm talking about in my home league, I've got Saquon Barkley, I've got Nick Chubb, I've got Ezekiel Elliott, I've got Chris Carson. So all of a sudden, these running backs that have been carrying me for the last 3 years are getting to a point where, you know, Ezekiel Elliott's on his second contract. Saquon Barkley's had the ACL injury, MCL injury. Nick Chubb is fantastic, but yeah, again, he was hurt in college, and you never know. Chris Carson is kind of at the end of things, so I'm at a point where I'm at the precipice of I need to start making trades. How the hell do I approach that? How, like, where do I go from here? Because like I am a builder through the draft. I am a builder. Like, that's how I build.
Mhm.
And it's through the draft, and it's mining guys like Darnell Mooney and James Robinson, who nobody wanted last year. And I have several leagues where we have 6-round rookie drafts, which is just insane, by the way. Like, you get to a point where
I regret why I did 5 in the trade.
see, but I love that, because you find guys like Darnell Mooney in the 5th.
Mhm.
You find guys like James Robinson in the 6th. And like, I had James Robinson in almost every single league that I played in last year, because when we scouted him, like, he's a really good player. It'll be interesting to see if he finds run. By the time your rookie drafts came around, he had moved on to the depth chart, and Leonard Fournette was on his way out of Jacksonville. And that's worth a flyer to me. A player with a chance at, a position, a chance at reps, even if it takes an injury or a trade or whatever. And so that's how I build. And so to watch you sit here and just it almost looks flippant. It almost looks haphazard, where you're just like
It is.
bing, 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 bing. But it's not. Like, I know, like, you say that, and I know it's self-deprecation.
No. I say it in the I don't say it in the fact that I do it without thinking. I don't do like I calculate every single trade I do, but I I don't worry about it. I guess
Yeah.
that's I think the very big difference. Like, I have a friend and his wife that I played redraft with for like 10 years before I finally got them into Dynasty, and they're terrified of trading. And because they've gotten bitten. You do a bad trade and all of a sudden, like, you hate trading. The only way to fix a bad trade is to do another trade to make it better. Like, that's really what it comes down to. So that's why I'm not afraid about it. I've absolutely made some very bad trades in my day. I probably made a bad trade today. And I mean, I kind of did. I made one I'm not happy about, but fine. I blew up my team, and the last player I had that I wanted to get rid of was Kenny Galladay. People just hate this guy now. I ended up getting, well, the trade was Kenny Galladay and a 23 third for a 23 first and Jalen Reagor. I don't feel great about it. I wanted Pittman and a first for Galladay. That was my original move, because I was a Pittman fan in the first place. I love where he landed. I was so thrilled with him and Wentz, and of course Wentz had to go and hurt his foot 20 years ago that he has to get surgery on now. No, wait, that was me when I was in high school. He's younger than I am. But still, I believe in the player, so that's where I wanted to go. I do like Jalen Reagor, but his value is lower than Pittman's and Deshaun Watson and stuff. But that's not really what we're talking about. Like, yeah, like, I'm not thrilled with that trade, but I made it anyway because it was the right move for my team. And because I understand that every league is its own market. It doesn't matter that I could get Michael Pittman in a first in Trade Addicts 4, but in Trade Addicts 5, I was damn lucky to even get a first for Galladay. I got offered a second. I got offered a first for Pittman and Paris Campbell. A couple of others, like another guy where I offered Galladay for Ayuk. I knew this was going to get rejected, but how could I not try? Like, it's always worth a shot, right? Like, that's, one of my sayings. Like, worst case, someone goes, "What the hell was that?" And I'm like, just felt like clicking buttons. But his response was, "I get it. I get what you're trying to do. I'm not really a Galladay guy. Honestly, I don't think I would give a first for him." Moved on, because clearly I don't want to trade with that. Nothing against that. I don't want to trade Galladay to that guy because he doesn't value him as much as I need. I'm always so afraid of making it seem like I'm talking bad about someone. So, like, I had to reframe what I thought Galladay was worth, because I knew I was moving him. A 28-year-old wide receiver who has a couple of injuries has no place on a team where I want my first to be the 101. So, The smart move probably would have been to wait till he was scoring points, but I was having fun. I already made 5 freaking trades. I wanted to make that double hat trick, so I did it. So I did the trade. I don't feel great about it. I feel okay about it. Everyone on Twitter makes it seem like I did a good trade because they think Gallaudet is worth less than I do. But again, it's adapting and moving on.
Well, and in 2 years, when Galladay is 30 and stuck still on the spiraling New York Giants, who haven't figured out their quarterback situation because they drafted a running back to replace Saquon Barkley with their next, first round pick or whatever it is that
I'm friends with too many Giants fans. Please don't wish that upon them.
No, I don't.
Want to
I don't wish
about
that.
it.
I don't wish that upon them. To me, I think I cheer for all teams to be great. I cheer for all players to be great. There's football. I am a fan of athletes and a fan of performances, and I am always cheering for everybody to be great. And I know that sounds cliche, but that's just how I am.
100% with you.
And so my Patriots fandom, I was on a show last week with the True North Fantasy guys, and they didn't realize I was a Patriots fan. And I said, it's because it doesn't move my life very much. I'm not a diehard Patriots fan. It's not, when they lose, it doesn't affect me. When they win, it doesn't really affect me. Just because that's how that's my personality. And it's nothing against, I understand fan is fanatic and people get wrapped up in this, but to me, I'm a lot more inclined to be impressed with an athlete. Doesn't matter what laundry he's wearing. And so that's my that's kind of where I land on this. But I think you'll be a lot happier in 2 years when Galladay's still hanging on with the Giants and you've got that 2023 first, because that sounds like that class is going to be a lot of fun. And
also because my team is terrible and I literally sold every usable asset. But the thing is, honestly, I like Galladay. I like the player. I like him on the Giants. I don't like the Giants, but let's go away from the point of the show because I need to talk about this now because you started me. Daniel Jones did really, really well with the healthy Saquon Barkley.
Yes.
His ceiling was there when Barkley was there. With Darius Slayton, again, it's awesome that whoever the hell Darius Slayton was did well. Kenny Galladay is really, really good in the first place.
Yeah.
And Daniel Jones is kind of crappy Matt Stafford. He's willing to just chuck the ball. He's a little bit more mobile, but Matt Stafford moves around the pocket. He moves around and makes that awkward throw. Daniel Jones just kind of throws awkward, so it works. When Calvin Johnson was around, it didn't matter what was going on. Matthew Stafford just slung it to Calvin Johnson. Daniel Jones doesn't care what's going on. He will just sling it to Kenny Galladay. Will Kenny Galladay be the wide receiver one? No one thinks that though. That's not a price you're paying. But still, I think he's at least 15-ish isn't out of the realm of possibility, and people are acting like 36 is out of the realm of possibility, and it's ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I think being in the top 18 is well within the range of outcomes for Galladay. But
because that defense is still pretty meh.
Yeah,
so they're gonna throw the ball.
But I'm a Galladay fan. I always have been. I have another. So you kind of snuck this in. So you're trading to build through the draft, which is very sneaky of you. I like that.
Oh, you're assuming I'm going to make all those picks.
You're not going to run the full J Mike.
Oh God, no. The J Mike invitation. Only if maybe I will if I can make that video. I could never be as good as J Mike is, so I never would even try. I've gotten this question before on Trade Addicts, because I have had a couple of times where I've had 5 or 6 picks. Usually I go half and half. I'll trade away half and then I'll keep half. I like having, depending on the year, always depending on the year, because if I end up with the 101 and 102, I'm going to end up with Rattler, Howell, and Tua on my team, and I'm going to be freaking thrilled about it. I am probably not trading one of those away unless someone sends me something ridiculous. But last year now we call it Dynasty Awesome Sauce. I had a whole lot of picks. I usually keep one in the beginning, one in the middle, one in the end. And then I trade the rest away to do whatever I could do, because honestly, picks are worth more than players. And if you want to do, chances are you can get him after the draft. There's always, short of like Justin Jefferson doesn't happen very often. Let's just put that out there. Like, if you were hoping to get Justin Jefferson once the season started, sorry. You had a couple of weeks, I guess, but like that went away very, very fast. But I am also fine paying the tax, paying the penalty, call it what you will, for waiting to see it. I'll find my guys. I drafted a ton of Calvin Ridley. I drafted a ton of T. Higgins just because those were my dudes. But, they're Pittman. I did not draft a lot of him, even though I liked him. There's a couple of, like, I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head, but it's always, I'll let you go. And if you do something, I'll pay the extra second value on top that I have to. Cortland Sutton, it went the other way on me. It's not that I wanted to wait and see. I was hoping his value would go down because he was a raw talent in quotes. He just did really well right away. Like, I didn't see that coming. But like, it's, I don't trust. We get in the argument on Twitter between analytics and tape. And honestly, I do neither. Like, people ask what my process is, and I laugh. Like, I don't know. I don't have one. I listen to people, I guess. Like, I'm a compiler, call me Frank Gore, I guess, and Jason Witten. Like, I don't miss a podcast, and I just put it all together. I don't miss a game, and all of a sudden I'm a top 10 tight end. It's I listen to you, I listen to J Mike, I listen to Peter Howard, I listen to Ray Garvin, and it's just like shove that all into one giant pool and sort of figure out a take based on everyone else's take. Like, I like what he said about that, but he said this, so maybe I'll move him a little that way in my heavy quote on rankings. Like, it's like, I really honestly don't have a process, in which case I don't trust what I think. Every year you get me to fall in love with someone, so I'll end up drafting that person. I wish I drafted more Justin Jefferson based on your recommendation. You absolutely did, and that is my fault. I really just like Jalen Reagor. That was a really stupid move. But I also loved Corey Coleman and Josh Doxson, but that's why that hurt my feeling. I drafted so much Corey Coleman and Josh Doxson, but that's not the point. That's also why I don't trust myself. My strength is trading. So I take these assets that, to me, draft picks are poker chips. That's mostly what, like, if you play in Devy players are poker chips, unless you land someone that, if you land CeeDee Lamb, you hold on to him. I learned that one the hard way. Frickin' Ryan McDowell. I had him on the Trade Addict show, and I brought that up. He's like, I knew you were going to bring that up. I'm like, hey, you disrespected the new guy, and now you're in my world, buddy. Like, that's really what it is, because I don't know enough. Like we were talking before, like I brought up Kylan Hill. Like, Devi guys loved that guy. I didn't really know anything about him, but I trusted a couple of people, and it didn't go well for him. So I kind of still have a little thing for him. Chuba Hubbard, same thing. And of course, they both landed in terrible spots. Well, I guess Chuba's not terrible, but not the point. So I keep a couple of picks because, again, drafting is fun. You want to be part of it. And plus, moving around the draft is also fun as well. But I also know I will be better off moving those picks for other things. I'm absolutely going to find a way to get Jerry Jeudy in Trade Addicts 5. The dude didn't want Galladay, so I'm absolutely going to end up moving when we get somewhere. I don't know where. Maybe after this season, it'll even wait till I get those picks closer to the draft, and I'm going to get Jeudy somehow because I believe in him. I guess it'll probably be too late by then, but that's again besides the point. I'll have to figure it out.
Yeah, but you're going to end up paying the iron price for that, because I'm feeling the Jeudy breakout this year.
The problem is, it doesn't matter which quarterback it is. Teddy's great for Jeudy, and even if it's Drew Lock, I think Cortland Sutton's going to be awesome with Drew Lock. In which case, Judy's going to have one dude on him, and you can't do that with Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
Like, let's put it this way: I called Jerry Jeudy Calvin Ridley plus, and we all know how I feel about Calvin Ridley.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with you. So you and I are in several leagues together. We've been in several startups together.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something else that I love watching you approach. And I've been the victim of this in a couple of startups, but I don't think I've ever seen anybody operate in a startup and move to the places where they want to be while acquiring everybody else's picks in the process, quite like you do. And so, how do you approach a startup? And then, I'll two part it, and you can talk for a while. But how is trading in a startup and the value in a startup different than once you get in an established league? So I'll two part you. I'll be very professional, like a reporter and such.
See, here's the thing. It's really when a beginner asks me how to trade in a startup, I say it's not the right answer, but the easiest thing you can do is put a name to the pick. Who do you think is going to go at the 106? What would you take for what would it take to get Saquon Barkley off your team? That's what you get in picks for the 106. But the real answer is picks are worth more than the players their names are associated with. Having the power to take who you want at that pick has a cost to it. How do I do what I do? I don't freaking know, man. Like, honestly, the only strategy, like, I don't go in with a strategy whatsoever. Okay, that's a lie. I don't go into every draft with the same strategy. Like, for Trade Addicts 9, I was just like, I'm going to get the 101 and 102. I settled for the 101 and 103. I still got Mahomes and Kyler, which is who I wanted. So
that's
that was so much fun. Like I'll go and be like, I feel like doing this, but usually you see what the draft does, or you try and do something and you just get, because leagues I'm in tend to be more active because of the people I surround myself with, or people see I'm in a league and then they feel like it's a contest or like it's a challenge, which please keep going. So you sort of read the room, because especially trading begins before the draft starts. So what I like to do, the first move I like to make, even if my goal is to move up, what I like to do is take one move to move back and gain an extra pick, whether it's in the startup or whether it's a draft pick. Give me this one extra piece that most other people don't have to use to my advantage. Because what you can do is, okay, I have an extra 5th round startup pick. Cool. So I can trade a 5th round pick and still have a pick in the 5th round, so it doesn't hurt me whatsoever. And then when you do that, okay, cool, crap, now I don't have a 3rd. Well, I was willing to not have a 5th. So if I could take a 5th and a 6th, then move up, keep pushing at problems till later and later on. And honestly, sooner or later, who cares about the 20th round? That's why I don't understand people that don't like trading up, especially now when everyone wants to trade back, because let's be completely honest, it's the right thing to do. It's not a theory. It's not a guess. Getting multiple picks in the top, pick a number, 25, 50, even just 100, like that big of a scope. The more picks you get in that area, the better. Why can't I keep trading up to get into that? Yes, it is, like, it's so funny. Like, I love when we talk about Trade Addicts 9 on Trade Addicts, because Rocky and I did the exact opposite. I traded up. He had 4 second-round picks and 3 third-round picks.
Because he traded back.
The two of us have the best 2 teams in my opinion. But like, that's just because I'm awesome. I suck at drafting. Let me throw that out there. I am not very good at it, because I don't know. It's just fun to me. Also because I know I could fix what I could fix afterwards. That's what I care about. I will draft more for value than anything else, because, like, all right, cool. Travis Kelce, I planned on going young, but man, I could trade Travis Kelce for a lot later on, because people are going to miss out on that realm of tight end. So we'll figure it out later. So, like, how do I do what I do, man? Again, it's the same answer I guess I have before. I'm willing to fix it later. Again, I start with a very, very small strategy. Give me an extra second, future second. Give me an extra 6th, something that's not a 6th-round starter pick is absolutely valuable. You're getting a guy in your starting lineup. But when you're in the 1st round, it's not, So be willing to lose a little bit of that top end value to get you a value a little later, because you will be able to use it more to your advantage. At least it'll seem that way. Like, you'll be able to do more with it when you hit the 2nd round. Once you get out of that 1st round, brains change. It doesn't matter that pick 12 and pick 13 are 1 pick apart. The 201 is different from the 112. 1000%. Just think of it in rookie drafts, how much more seeing that 1 in front matters. So it's really being willing, like, I want to do this. I want 3 picks in the 1st round. Do whatever the hell it takes. Figure the rest out later, because you'll be able to. People want, assuming you're in a league that's active, I have to keep saying that out loud because I know not every league is like the league I'm in. I named my leagues what they are for a reason. I wanted to attract a certain kind of person. Most leagues are, assuming you're in a league that is filled with people that are willing to trade in a startup, figure it out as you go. If you set a goal you want, overpay to get there, because you'll be able to extract the value later on. You'll be able to figure it out. And even if you don't during the draft, you'll figure it out later. You'll be able to fix your team, especially if you're an idiot like I am and you start a league in February. Who starts leagues in February? Me.
I mean, addicts,
a lot of
man.
people, everyone, a bunch of degenerates on Twitter too. I forgot who it was. I was talking to someone who started a league like at halftime in the Super Bowl. They're like, all right, well, the season's over. And I'm like, damn, man, respect.
that sounds like because Kyle and I were in the initial, like the like there was a podcasters league, and that started immediately after the Super Bowl because everyone got in it, and they were like, well, when are we going to do the draft? Well, let's do it now. And I was like, oh, okay, here we go. I love this idea, and you keep kind of dancing around it, but I love this idea of, instead of thinking about a trade, you're never thinking about one trade. It's cascading. It's almost a flow of trades all the time, instead of just thinking about each individual trade as an entity.
I mean, I will say, don't get me wrong, if I trade for Calvin Ridley, I want that dude on my goddamn team. Most of the time I will absolutely say, but yeah, sometimes I do want a player, and I will then sometimes value that player a little too highly, and it'll be tougher to get him off my team. But 1000%, nothing drives me more crazy than I won't trade this guy. This guy won't leave my team. Oh, well, I mean, I was going to offer you Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey, but if he's not leaving your team, never mind. No, everyone should be available for a price. Whether that price is realistic or not are 2 very different things. I traded T. Higgins and Deontay Johnson for Tyreek Hill. I told you before the show, or maybe it was during, that I traded T. Higgins away, and you were just like, yeah. I don't know. Honestly, I'm not thrilled with the price I paid. I'm really sad I lost T. Higgins. But the way that team is, just freaking do it, man. It's really weird. I guess this doesn't fit what I'm saying, because I actually was able to trade T. Higgins at the value I value him at, because someone else kind of agreed with me. But I have someone on my team. Trading away Calvin Ridley is going to be impossible for me, because it'll be impossible for someone to meet my standards unless someone finally regards him as wide receiver 2. Because I mean, Adams is still my 1. I will easily throw that out there. But as long as until that day where someone puts Ridley up there, then I don't know how they'll get them off my team. But I will never reject a trade just because I see Ridley leaving my team. I will absolutely look at it every time and measure the value, measure the worthwhileness. I'll make up a word. I don't know if that's a word, of doing the trade, because it's silly just to say no. It again leads to being bad.
Yeah, and stagnating.
Yeah, that's a better, much nicer way of saying it. Yes.
Now I know that you are in, because it's the Trade Addicts leagues, and all of those leagues are, for lack of a better word, hyperactive in the trading, and you have this this group of people who have gravitated toward both the podcast and you, and this idea of trading to make your team better, and that's kind of the go-to. Are you in any leagues that aren't as active? And so you're shaking your head no, so I guess I don't even need to ask you the
I
second
leave
question.
them.
Yeah, okay. So that was, I was going to ask you how you approach a league where, so it's
I've tried.
if
Okay,
you
no,
were in a
ask your
league
question.
with
Go ahead.
if you were in a league with like 11 of me, because I'm not a proactive trader. I am, if you ever have fished, I am that lunker fish that just kind of sits down in the hole underneath the tree stump and waits, and you have to kind of, drag your lure in front of my face, and then boom, I'll strike. But I'm not just gonna come up to the surface, and I don't send out very many trades. I'm not a volume trader. But I'm a lot more apt to accept a trade or engage in trading if you make an offer. And I know you do that with me occasionally, trying to draw me out. And I appreciate that that's what you're doing, because it gets you a feel for me, but it also makes me have to stop and think, okay, well, what do I want, and what are you offering, and how does this affect? And so I guess, like, how do you approach people like that, people who don't trade? And I guess conversely, what would you say to them to get them to a point where that isn't a flaw in their game?
You can't force people to do things. It's to take a step back. You always get that question: how do I make my league more active? You could never force it. That's the unfortunate part. If some people don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. The only thing you can do is try, right? Like I had gotten myself in way too many leagues. So the way I pruned it down was, which do I find boring? Because to me, like I said from the very beginning, I am in a lot of leagues, but none of them are for money. It's just, this is for fun for me. So like I said, I left that team, league where I won twice in a row, because I had like two dudes I traded with, and I got what I could out of them, and there was nothing for me to do anymore. So I just sort of left. And like, I mean, that kind of sounds a little dickish, but like, I'm not going to stay just because I'm winning. It's boring. I don't want to do that. That's not why I'm here. So like, you talk about you not initiating trades, like, is it a bad thing? To me, yes, because I want to receive trade offers. But you have never just shut me down by saying I don't want to trade. You have always engaged in conversation about, like, you've been much better than a couple of other people I've dealt with, where they're just like, no, I don't want that. Okay, no. You have always told me why you didn't want the trade I sent you. A lot of the time is because they were bad offers, and I absolutely, or just like, dude, I'm not giving you your first back. Get over it. Which, I respect. Okay, but let's take a step back. Let's say I am in a league with 11 other people that are just like, no, don't want to do it. You find that one, you give them a trade, lose it, get a player you'll like, but overpay for it. Oh, wait, what? They just did that? I would have paid more for that. Okay, yeah. I mean, action sparks action. Nothing makes people trade more than seeing a trade go through. And will it always work? No. Will it ever work? Hopefully. How long will it last? Not very. I mean, because they're going to go back under that tree stump and wait for another lure to be pushed right in front of their face. I really just stole that metaphor, and it really just worked really well. Thank you for that.
It does. Yeah.
Like, I mean, the problem is people are the way they are, and sometimes they'll grow and sometimes they won't. And if they don't grow that way, you just got to leave the league. It's the unfortunate truth of it. I honestly leave more leagues after winning them because, all right, cool. I built my team up. There's no one else, there's the two people that I trade with probably don't want to trade with me anymore because I just won the league twice in a row. And I don't mean to be like a mic dropping asshole. They'll just be like, nope, screw you guys. I beat you. I'm done. But it's just like, there's nothing else for me to do there. because when 8 of the 12, like it's 11 other teams just don't do anything, there's nothing for me. Why would I stay there when I could just start another trade addicts league and have 11 people to talk to? I mean,
see,
so
that's the edge. This is exactly what I'm talking about, though. Like your edge is your willingness to trade, your willingness to lose trades, your willingness to, instead of compartmentalize and think of a trade as an individual piece, being able to cascade. And when I talk about in rookie drafts, I talk about buying on credit. So when
Mhm.
I get into the second round or the third round, I usually don't have a second round pick or a third round pick. And so what I'll do is pay with my next year's second and a third to
Mhm.
get the second, and that, and buy on credit. And you kind of do that in a startup. You do
Mhm.
that in the season, because you're not worried about necessarily losing later, because you can always go fix it later. And I think that is, to me, I mean, that's the brilliance of what you do, and the edge. And the reason why I wanted to bring you on and talk about this is part of, like, I've gotten better at trading. I have. And I've gotten better because I listen to you. And like, you can be humble all you want, but that's always been a deficiency in my fantasy football. And one of the things that I have always taken to heart is, when I don't know something, I go find the person who does and I ask them, because that is how you learn and that is how
Mhm.
you get better. And so, I've always been able to humble myself and been realistic about my shortcomings. And so, this is exactly the reason why, I wanted to bring you on. It's exactly the reason why I wanted to bring Peter Howard on last week to talk about how he finds edges with the numbers. It's the same reason why I want to bring, and I know J Mike is a co-host, but I want to bring him on because he plans out things better than anybody I've ever been in a league with. It's amazing to watch him work. I know you've seen it firsthand, where he ended up with the
J
entire
Mike
first
Invitational,
round.
baby.
Yeah, and so, like, there are all of these people who do different things, and Leo Pasiga, who does
I
the
hate him
notebook and
so
does the
much just because I'm so jealous of
it's
the ability to do something like that.
and
I tried so hard and it lasted for about 2 days.
and seeing he and I, like, I'm a pale imitation. It's there's a Josh Ritter line that says, all the other girls here are stars, you're the northern lights. They try to shine in through your curtain, but you're too close and too bright. They try and they try, but everything that they do is a ghost of a trace of a pale imitation of you. And that's what I like. Like,
Fantastic
yeah,
line.
but that's like me to Leo is I am the ghost of a trace of a pale imitation of Leo, where, like, I approach things psychologically, and I approach things with trying to understand my league mates and how they do things and their tendencies and that sort of thing. And so that's where I gain my edge. But that only goes so far. And so, trying to mitigate the areas where I am deficient by listening to you, by listening to Peter, by listening to J Mike, by listening to Dave Wright, like all of these different people who are so brilliant. And so bringing you on is trying to be a gift to the people who listen to this show, who may be like me, may have these deficiencies, may be able to glean something from listening to you. I have one more question for you, and I would kick myself if I didn't ask you this before we got out. And you'll recognize this question, but it is, what is a guiding principle for you in trading? And that's the one that you ask everybody, but I had to turn it back on you because I'm curious how you answer this question.
I'm so glad that I ask everyone else this question, never have to answer it myself. Let's but I will, before we go into this, and you did a lovely, lovely lead in for this, but I do have one last thing to say on the last subject we were talking about. Is a lot of people ask me, like, how I do what I do when it comes to all the trading, when it comes to all the leagues, and the counterintuitive answer I have is you need to be less competitive
Mm.
to do what I do, how I do it. because you don't need to win every single thing. You don't need to win every wire pickup. You don't need to win every trade. Whoops, forgot about the waiver wire. Crap. Whoops, I accepted that trade. I thought that was the other team. Shoot. All right. You have to be willing to roll with things and figure it out as you go along. Like if you need to watch your scores on 29 leagues, you are going to go insane. Thankfully, my wife's asleep. You shouldn't hear me say those words. She doesn't know how many leagues I'm in. Okay, my guiding principle with trades. I wish I had an answer for this. It's the honest truth. Like I don't know. Like it's have fun with it, I guess. Like I said before, everything's worth a shot. Like why not? Just if you play with people who are literally offended by trade offers, leave the league. Kick them out if it's your league. You don't want to be with that. When I start a new trade addicts league, or even when I have an opening for people, the way I do the trade addicts leagues, in case people listening don't know, is I announce that I'm starting a new league. Let me know if you're interested. I get a list of names, and then I literally pick people at random. I'm lucky if I know them. A lot of the times I don't, but I will always DM a person and be like, hey, your name came up. You still interested? Yes. Okay. And I even literally say, like, here's my spiel. Like, this is my little speech. These leagues are about fun. These leagues are cheap, so you would do things you wouldn't normally do in a league where that matters too much. Like, this is not $100 league, and it's not supposed to be. If I say this league is for fun and your response is, well, winning is fun, then I'm sorry, this league is not for you. That isn't the kind of person we want here. We want to just joke around, play around with our teams in ways we wouldn't normally do. And yeah, money's on the line. So it's, you take it a little seriously. But we're not here to, I almost said we're not here to win. Clearly we're here to win. But, we're not here for winning to be everything. And I guess that's really that's my guiding principle is go in, have fun. If you win, awesome, man. But knowing you are with people that see your trade and want to talk about it is the coolest thing ever. Like I started the Trade Addicts podcast and it was just like, no one's going to want to listen to trades about my league. No one's going to care about this. Why would they care? Why do I think this is a good idea? I still don't think it is, but for some reason, Zach tells me people listen. I cannot confirm. But that's really what it is. It's just go do it. Why not? I never thought anyone would listen to my show, but I felt like doing it, so I went and did it. I'm going to send this offer. Will someone accept it? Probably not, but sometimes they will. And if they do, cool. And if they do, we're going to go talk about it in the group chat because there should be a group chat for every single league you're in, which means I'm in 29 group chats just for leagues. Mute them. Everybody mute them. It's fine. Every league I'm in, I have every mute. I was about to say I have this many group chats that are not muted. Every single group chat is muted. The DFPN chat, the DAP network chat, all of them muted because I'll see it when I feel like it. Nothing's that important. It's fantasy football. And again, there's the guiding principle. It doesn't matter. Just do what you want to do. Have fun with it. And if you lose the Twitter poll, who gives a shit? Again, that's against my brand because I remember I used to poll every single Trade Addicts trade. There became too many. I couldn't do it anymore. I got really tired. So again, it all comes down to why you play this game. I play this game for fun. Some people don't, and that's fine. I love you, but I don't want to play with you. I'm here to do what I want to do. So I've become surrounded with people that feel the same way. So I can be myself, I guess is what it comes down to. And that's awesome. And that's freeing. And that's fun. So that's my guiding principle is just find yourself in a place you want to be and just effing go for it, man. Why not?
I love it. And your invitation to the Just Have Fun Summit that I'm going to put together after this Edge Finders series of shows is already in the mail. I'll bring you back if you're willing to do it because I think that's going to be my next next endeavor after these is to bring on a whole bunch of people who understand that fantasy football is fun, that talking about fantasy football is fun, that being in leagues are fun, and to kind of discuss how to do it, because I don't think we talk about that very much. We talk about the nuts and bolts. We talk about how, and this was actually a guy who plays in my home league, who actually he was the one who beat me in the championship this year. It's a sore subject, but
I'm very proud of you for being able to admit that.
yeah, and he was the one who sent me a message, a DM the other day, and said, "Hey, I really appreciate when you talk about the humanity, that side of fantasy football, because I don't think it gets done enough." And so he said, "Do you think you could do a show?" And I think I'll invite him to come on too, because it was his idea and it was brilliant to just sit and talk about why it's fun, what's fun about it, what you can do to make your leagues fun, or what you can do to find leagues that are fun, because I think that's really, really important. And that was a great, like, your as a guiding principle, you and I are right on the same wavelength, and I absolutely love it. Russ, thank you for joining me tonight. This was awesome. Like, I had so much fun, and I took notes. I hope you didn't feel like I was ignoring you, but I took notes on how you approach things, because again, I'm always listening to you to try to get better myself. It was a clever ploy to bring you on and do a podcast, because I get to pick your brain.
You told me what you were doing. You said, "Hey, Russ, talk." I'm like, all right.
Yeah, no, but
I'm pretty sure we've been recording for an hour and 16 minutes. I probably owned an hour and 8 minutes of that.
Which is, see, that's me knowing my limitations, stepping back. I mean, I did the same thing with Peter Howard last week.
No one can stop Peter Howard from talking.
I tell you, you listen when I'm on his show, and I think I dominate the time of possession. It's close, but I think I get him. But when I brought him on, I said, I'll have to be a host. I have to step back and again, because I wanted to pick his brain. But these have been really fun, and I really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything? I mean, I know you've got podcasts, you've got DLF. Is there anything you want to plug on your way out?
Well, we're like I'll ever brag about myself. Well, we're talking about the humanity side of it. On the Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network YouTube channel, I do Outhouse Thoughts, which I wish I named it something more serious at this point. I didn't really know what I was doing when I came up with it. But literally, it has 99% nothing to do with fantasy football. I bring it up every once in a while because I think about it a lot. But really, it's just me talking out loud. And what I do is I have two screens, and one of them's me and one of them's my brain, and I switch back and forth, where I kind of like try to give the world a view into how my brain works, because I know it's not normal. And I mean, what the hell is normal, but neuroatypical, let's be fancy. So like, and plus sometimes it's just kind of funny. So like it's really just me doing what I've been doing this whole time, but it's not about fantasy football. Like, it's funny, Zach asked me if I wanted a show sheet, and I'm like, why would I want to know what we're talking about? Why would I want to plan anything? It's more fun just to like BS and just go back and forth. But what I do on Outhouse Thoughts is like I find a topic that's been on my brain or something that's been bothering me, and I just sort of talk about it out loud and work my way through it. And by being able to talk and going back and forth between those two screens, it does a couple of things. It helps me, first of all. I won't lie, there is a little bit of selfishness to it. Like, it's very jarring to watch my hands move back and forth of where, like, oh crap, oh man, that's what my brain does. Man, I never really realized that that's not me thinking. That's just what happens. And then, what we were talking about, I think before we started recording, I can't even tell because we've been talking for 3 hours now, even though we're only an hour and 19 in. It's nice to know other people go through the same shit you do, and maybe not in the same way, maybe not even the same shit, but other people are going through shit, and it's endearing's the wrong word, but it like brings you closer together. It makes you not feel alone. And a lot of my, I don't even know, like, I'll just stick with the word anxiety, is a feeling of more like rejection, of aloneness, of not feeling like part of a group. And if I can take that away from someone, that's like the greatest thing in the world to me. So like that's why I don't just make leagues with people I know. Like that's why I will literally talk to anyone that messages me in any way, shape, or form. Like, I mean, I've answered every DM. Like replies, I try and answer them all, but I get so many freaking notifications. I miss some. I'm not going to lie. I've literally never said no to anyone who's asked to come on my podcast. I've never said no to anyone who's asked me to come on their podcast, because I go back to listen. I mean, I did an episode about an article I wrote. I'm one of the early episodes. I'm on episode freaking like 7. But like it talks about this feeling I got the first time someone actually replied to me on Twitter. And it was like the craziest thing in the world to me, that someone who is a literal nobody to this person who has tens of thousands of followers took the second of his life and just hit that reply button and replied to me. And it's just like I showed my phone to my wife and she's just like, all right. And I'm like, no, this is awesome. And she's like, someone replies to you. Why is that a big deal? Like, it is a big deal. And like, if me replying to someone does 1/10 of that to someone, that's so goddamn cool. And what did it cost me? Literally nothing. And you could extrapolate that 10,000 times and make the world a goddamn better place. That's really what the show is. When I get my multi-million-dollar signing deal, that's what I want to happen.
and yeah, like I have you on YouTube as an alert, as an automatic subscription, and so when that comes up, that is always the first thing I watch when I come home from work. And you mentioned it is we're in a point in time where, as connected as we are by the virtual space and all of this social media, we're more disconnected from people than we've ever been before. And just getting that personal side of you. So like for me, I love it. Like you're a friend of mine, and it's so nice to get that emotion, get that humanity. But by the same token, it's nice isn't the right word, but to know that other people are going through,
Mhm.
you
No,
know,
nice is absolutely the right word. It's not a negative thing to be happy that other people are going through the same thing you are. You don't want people to, but it's
exactly.
alienating to think that they're not.
It's
So,
it's the John Donne. It's no man is an island, each a part of the main. Like we're
yeah.
all connected, and sometimes we need to be reminded of that. And Outhouse Thoughts does a fantastic job doing that. I know I mentioned it last week on the show with Peter, and I'm glad you brought it up again because it's fantastic. It's between that and when J Mike does J Mike's journal, like those are two of my favorite pieces of content. I mean, it's not really pieces of content, but it's my favorite thing because it's actual people, and you're connecting with people through this medium. And it's fantasy football is great,
Mhm.
but in the grand scheme of things, it does not matter one iota.
At all.
But people do. And
Mhm.
and being able to connect with people. And that's been my favorite part about fantasy football. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like there have been times where the actual fantasy football is an absolute slog. It is, trying to think about the third string tight end for the Cleveland Browns. Like that does not necessarily
Well, let
bring me
me ask
joy.
you one question right now.
I don't
Why
know who
would
the
you
third string
why
tight
would
end
you join a new league someone asked you to join?
for me.
Mhm.
It's people.
Yeah, who's
That's
in it?
it. Yeah.
Who's
Yeah.
in it? What are the rules? Don't care. Who's in it?
Yeah. Yep. And that's what I do. And that's how I've been at this point for, probably 4 years now, where if it's I don't care about the settings. I don't care if it's a single quarterback. I don't care if it's a super flex. I know that's taboo, but
As long
like
as it's not two tight ends, I'm there.
I don't yeah. Like I don't care about that. I care about who's in it. I care about playing with people that are good people and that I care about and that care about me. And there are a lot of those. I mean, this community is great. And I know
Mhm.
that I've said that a lot over the years of doing this, and I stand by it. Like, this community is fantastic. It's the reason why I'm looking forward so much to next weekend and going to see everybody in person, because there are so many people that are family to me
Mhm.
in this community that I've never met in person.
Mhm.
And I think that Outhouse Thoughts is just kind of just a fraction of that, where you're letting family in, you're letting people in and saying, look, I am vulnerable. I can be vulnerable. You can be vulnerable too, because this place is a place where we can talk about mental health. We can talk about. I mean, I can't even count the number of times that I've said I love you to you and J
Mhm.
Mike and Sal and Kyle and Kevin and Joe and like all of these people, the DFPN network, and then beyond that, because
Mhm.
there are so many people in this community that are great and pulling for everybody. And that's what it's all about. It's all about this connection. It's all about trying to be part of something bigger. It's why the Scott Fishbowl works.
Oh yeah.
And it's why it's so big, because there are so many people in this community that just absolutely get it.
Mhm.
And so I guess that's the ending note for me in this pod. Go follow Russ at Dynasty Outhouse. If you're not, I don't have any idea what you're doing. You should, and you should be auto downloading Trade Addicts Pod, because he and Rocky are fantastic. I love the little cut in that Russ and Rocky are their
I,
names.
I
I, lo-
purposely did it so blandly.
I
It makes
love
me
that.
laugh.
But yeah, and definitely get on YouTube and check out Outhouse Thoughts. In terms of the DFPN, you should be following everybody in the network: Kevin, Sal, Steve, Russ, Joe, Kyle, Matt. Like, go follow
Zach.
J Mike, me. Yeah, you don't have to follow me. I'm fine. Like, we're good. I appreciate you listening, but like everybody in that network, they're fantastic people. They're willing to talk to you about fantasy football first and foremost, but they're also willing to talk to you about anything else. They're just good people, deserve a follow. So get out there and do that. It's at DFPN at work. And this has been the Dynasty Dummies. I appreciate you listening.